you going up against a resilient Province side. Your thoughts on their team for this weekend and what you'd be expecting from them?
Yeah, Nathan, I mean, I suppose what I'm expecting is it's a semi-final, and they played really well last week, and they'll want to try and play the same kind of rugby. So, yeah, we've obviously got to make sure that we're good enough. And those games in Northern Transvaal, Western Province, or Blue Bulls, Western Province have always been tough games, and I'm expecting no different. I'm expecting nothing different, especially because it's knockout rugby.
Last two questions, Jake. I remember speaking to you about the potential signings last week. Next month, you sign a Bok veteran, Bismarck. Will he be one of many signings, especially for the upcoming United Rugby champs? Not that you guys need more players, as you could potentially field two competitive sides with your current squad.
Yeah, Nathan, look, I mean, I must, on the record, we haven't completed that signing. I mean, that's all speculation at this stage as well. I mean, obviously, we've had meetings. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of play we want to get back. I've told you many times, as I have to all the other media, it's a tough comp in the north. I've been there, I've coached there. And you need depth, you need experience, you need guys who've been there and played in those conditions. So those kind of guys like him, like Jacques, Du Plessis, like, obviously Johan Goosen, like guys like Harold Foster, that have got experience. It's important that we get those sort of guys involved. So, yeah, I mean, it is, and like you say, two teams from January. That looks like the Currie Cup's going to start, and then you need two quality teams to play week in and week out.
Okay, right, Jake. Then last one. I just spoke to Dobber before the presser, and he stated what he'd be expecting from a well-settled bull side, as Adams, the captain, said. Jake, we know playoffs are less flashy and more conservative, with a more likely option of a 3 rather than a potential 7-pointer. Would you guys be changing the game tactics in the playoffs, or will we be expecting the same ruthless mentality of the Bulls?
Sorry, Nathan, just repeat that. I didn't quite understand what Dobbo told you, because it sounded like he was talking about his own team.
He was saying a well-settled Bulls side.
Yes.
That's what Adams, the captain, said.
Yes.
So let me carry on, Jake. We know playoffs are less flashy and more conservative, with more likely option of a 3 rather than a potential 7-pointer. Would you guys be changing the game tactics in the playoffs, or will be expecting the same ruthless mentality of the Bulls?
Look, Nathan, I mean, it's knockout rugby, but at the same time, you've got to back yourself to win games. I think we've scored more bonus points than any other team this year. So it's working for us. We've scored 4 or 5 tries against most opposition. So again, it's far from conservative. And I'm expecting it'll be a nice game of rugby, because the Stormers last week played for the first time in a long time to score 4 tries. And it was exciting on seeing how they could actually, play that brand of rugby. So, yeah, I mean, it's not one or the other. I think the reality is the situation takes care of itself. If you're dominating and you think you can kick for the corner and score points by scoring tries, you'll do that. If you feel like you can't get through that way, you probably take the 3. So, yeah, I mean, there's no fixed recipe to how it works in a game. I think you trust the players, on the field to get a feel for exactly what's needed.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Jake, everyone talks about Evan Roos, and apparently he will not play on Saturday. But Dion Fourie showed the last few games the enormous effect a really good fixture can have on a game. How do you eliminate a guy like him?
You pick Marcel Coetzee.
Okay, good answer.
Okay.
Hi, Jake. Ruan Norkia in your starting lineup. He is probably also one of those players that you have a long-term engagement with, and especially the United Rugby Championships coming up.
Yeah, Simon, I mean, I rate him highly. I mean, all of you guys have seen his growth in a short space of time as well. I mean, you just have to look at the players that are playing for Stormers now without May Hazen, without JD Schickeling, without Murat, without Marvin Ori. I mean, you've got to give credit to those 2 locks that are playing now. I mean, 2 guys like Van Rijn and obviously Peter Steph's younger brother. I mean, them playing lock there, just shows the importance of having locks, So while we've got guys like Ruan and Jacques Du Plessis and Janku Swanepoel, I mean, obviously we're very, very, happy that we've got their services at this important time of the season. And you're quite right. I mean, he's grown a lot in 1 year. I'm quite keen to see, how the next couple of seasons add up. But saying that, he's got a big job ahead of him on Friday night.
Jake, and the tension must be quite high at the moment. I mean, it's knockout rugby, and you're the holders of the cup. It's a forthcoming question. Obviously, how's preparation going on a broader spectrum and stuff like that? I mean, if you feel a team like this with your impact players, it looks like you're there and thereabouts.
Yeah, Simon, look, I mean, I must say, I think the pressure comes on its own anyway. I'm very confident. The players are very confident. We've played consistently throughout the year. Nothing's going to change. We prepared as well as we can. I think it's now important just to relax and trust the fact that we've done enough preparation for us to get a result tomorrow. As I said, the pressure comes on its own. The nice thing about this group is they had the same pressure last year, and they came through it with flying colours. So I'm expecting the same. We've got a couple of wiser heads now as well that have joined us. So yeah, Simon, it's I don't think I need to say anything. The players know, it's knockout, but it's exciting time. This is why we play rugby. We want to be in these games. I think there's nothing worse than playing. When I coached overseas, some teams play for relegation every year to stay up in the Premiership or to stay up in the top 14 or to stay up in the Japanese top league. Where you want to be at the end of every competition is in the playoffs, and that's why it's so exciting. So. Yeah, Simon, I don't want to sound over confident, but I'm very confident that the reality is we've done our work. We've got a squad that have worked together, and I trust that if we just play as well as we can, that we don't have to then worry too much about being too nervous.
Jake, having said that, Dobbo was quick to take the underdog tag and saying no one's giving Province a chance and they're just going to go out and play their game and they're not actually worried about the result. Yeah. Is there a danger that your team may be but overconfident or be caught cold like the Sharks were last week? Although the Sharks really, they didn't have to win to get to the semi-final, but obviously actual semi-finals. Yeah,
Ashfaq, look, I mean, I must say, I know you guys are waiting for a one-liner that you can put in the front page of newspapers. I mean, the reality is, Dobbo said he's got nothing to lose. I mean, he's got lots to lose. I mean, the reality is we don't get to here and then lose. So we're the same. We're exactly the same. We're not going to use lines like we've got nothing to lose. Of course you got to lose. That's why it's a knockout game. And I think the lesson we learned is that everyone didn't think Province, with that team they picked last week, had a chance of beat the Sharks in Durban, and they didn't just win, they won convincingly. So sometimes those things also help other teams prepare, So we won't be going into this game thinking that that's a Province team that we can just roll over. I mean, the mere fact that they actually played like they did last week, they've got confidence. They, as I said, they will be throwing everything at us, and we've just got to make sure we're good enough.
Jake, you've been in a few playoff games over the years, semi-finals and finals. What are the key differences in games like this? What is the difference between winning and losing in playoffs like this?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think the thing that's important is trust. I think you got to trust what you've done, and you can't overcoach now. I mean, now whatever you can't, you all of a sudden you can't spend 2 weeks trying to coach them things you should have got in the beginning. So, yeah, I mean, I've trust in what we've done. I've trust in the way we've prepared. I've trust in the combinations we've played throughout the season and tried different ones. And I think Jan, you've been in rugby also a long time. I think players pick that up if they see that the staff and that the coaching staff and that the people around the team are confident and also comfortable and also relaxed. There's nothing more we can do between now and tomorrow night for the result to take care of itself. So, I just, as I said, I've been in a lot of knockout games, a lot of finals, a lot of semi-finals. I just got to trust the fact that each player does what he has to do, and whatever you've taught them, they do as well as they can. And I'm convinced if that's the case, we'll be good enough to win.
Jake, sorry, this was asked earlier, but Jan ended Wessels, man of the match, 2 tries and now he's on the bench.
Yeah, it's a tough school at the Bulls, Ashfaq. It's a tough school.
Jake, ek wil graag vra oor die onderhandeling met Bismarck. As mens sosiale media kyk, is daar nog steeds daai mening dat die Bulle sukses koop. Is dit vir jou vreemd dat daai sienings daar buite is in die beroepsera wat alle spanne spelers koop so ver as moontlik om vir hulle sukses te verseker?
Ja, Kobus, ek dink, ek is bly jy vra my dit. Einde van die dag, en ek dink Edgar, ons CEO en ons president sê dieselfde ding elke week, en ek dink is belangrik dat mense dit verstaan. Elke span het die geleentheid om 60 miljoen te spandeer en 'n squad bymekaar te sit. Elke span kan werwing doen van waar ook al hulle wil. Jy weet, daar's oorseese spelers of spelers wat uit kontrak uitkom. Jy weet, so die doelpale is nie anderste vir ons nie. Die feit dat ons daai spelers kan betrek en die spelers wil deel wees van die bulle, jy weet, en dit beteken jy gaan sukses kry of jy kry 'n geleentheid om sukses te behaal, dan is dit maar so. Jy weet, jy kan nooit almal gelukkig hou nie. Op die einde van die dag is dis wat eintlik interessant is in Suid-Afrika. Jy kry Bulls ondersteuners, jy kry WP ondersteuners, jy kry Sharks ondersteuners. Almal het hulle spanne, Vrystaat ondersteuners. Jy weet, almal is lief vir hulle spanne, almal, jy weet, support hulle spanne. Maar ek dink wat belangrik is, Kobus, soos ek sê, daar's 60 miljoen en hoe jy daai 60 miljoen spandeer. Ek is net gelukkig en baie bevoorreg dat baie van daai spelers wil deel wees van hierdie kultuur. Baie van daai spelers wil deel wees van die bulle. Jy weet, dan as dit beteken ons gaan suksesvol wees, dan is ek, jy weet, dan sê ek nog blyer. So ja, ek is nie negatief daaroor nie. Ek wil al die beste spelers in die wêreld kry om vir die bulle te speel en elke jaar probeer om alles te wen. Jy weet, is dit nie wat eintlik die doelwitte van elke span in die wêreld is nie.
Jake, sorry, I know, can I ask you to repeat that in English? I mean, the reasoning behind you just explained your recruitment strategy.
I must say, I only speak fluent Afrikaans now, Jan. So, no, it's, I think in English, Jan, you know, I think there's a lot of people speaking out there about, you know, bulls and players and buying players. I think what's important to understand is that our CEO, Edgar, our president, Willem, has said it many, many times, and I'm just repeating the same message. The landscape is exactly the same for every franchise. It's exactly the same. You spend 60 million, you do recruiting from anywhere in the world. People come out of contract. Your job is to find out whether they're available to join the Bulls. No different to us. You know, I'm very fortunate, very blessed, and I suppose very humbled by the fact that a lot of guys want to come to the Bulls. A lot of guys contact me and they want to be part of this club, and you know, they see the same vision and mission that we want. We want to be the best rugby football club side in the world, and you know, if that means that you win, that's fantastic, because at the end of the day, that's what the goal is. The goal is for every franchise to recruit the best players, to have the best staff, to win as many trophies as you can. You know, it's not just in rugby union. You look at, you know, I saw Ronaldo sign for Man United the other day. You know, the reality is the world in sport is about getting the best players and creating the best teams and creating legacies. And you know, I'm repeating myself in English now, but that's all we want to do. We want to make sure that you get Bull supporters, Shark supporters, you know, Lion supporters, Free State supporters. We want to make sure that our supporters are proud of our team and that we, you know, give our supporters reason to support us, you know, week in and week out by winning as many times as we can.
Just on that vein, we've spoken about the hookers many. This is a perfect example of the follow-up question that I can ask about that. Bismarck is probably on the verge of to be signed, and it's just an official matter now. But you had Schalk Brits previously, and Schalk Brits was also a Springbok taken on in the 2019 competition.
Yes.
But you have hobbies in the Springbok setup at the moment. You've got Jan Hendrik, you've got Schalk. So the question that probably, one of the many questions that probably come from that is, there should obviously be a buy-in from the seniors, like if Bismarck comes into the fold. There has to be some kind of an agreement. Is it a mentorship? Will he play, etc., etc.? So there has to be some kind of an understanding. Do I get you the gist of how you reason? Because that's how I followed you up until now.
Simon, you 100% spot on. You know, that's why I said he hasn't signed yet, and you can read in between the lines. We haven't committed to him yet, because obviously that's very important. I mean, exactly that reason. You know, I want to just quickly remind you guys, we were in Benetton when our side played at home against Province and lost 40-something points to 20. And it just proved to me that you're going to need different types of players for different competitions. And again, I'm very fortunate, Simon, that my board and that my president and my CEO understood that. Thank goodness they were with me in Benetton. and they got to experience firsthand what it felt like to lose twice on one weekend. And so part of it is creating depth. Is if Jan Hendrik Wessels is going to stay at home when we're in Benetton and learn from Bismarck du Plessis in a big crunch game at Loftus, then that is a role that Bismarck will be giving. If we feel that Bismarck is away in Benetton and he's now teaching Joe van Sail or Skalk Erasmus what it's like to play overseas in rainy weather in Connacht, then the reality is that's the lesson that coaches and players need to buy into. So Simon, 100% spot on. I think every player, senior player, needs to come in, understand his role, buy into the fact that he's 100% happy with that role and it's not going to change. And that's part of the theory that we're putting together as a union. So, I know I've got a job for him. What's really nice for me, Simon, is he's an old grey. Jan Hendrik is an old grey. There's probably a little bit of emotional attachment between the two as well, in that he would like to be part of growing another grey boy to become a hooker for South Africa. And if that's the case, Simon, then I'm happy. So, without getting too technical, but those are the sort of things we discuss in our meetings. And it's almost like when you asked me that question, it was like you were sitting in an interview meeting with myself, Edgar, and one of the players. That I just need to know where their headspace is, how they feel. And it's not only about the Bismarcks, it's about all the players that we bring to the club. Is, what is it that they want out of it, and what is it that we want out, and making sure that everyone's happy so that there's no miscommunication or suppose feeling of let down either way.
Jack, you just mentioned that Boris is deel van 'n is natuurlik deel van 'n groter prentjie vir julle. Die uitklopwedstryd môre vorm deel van julle program of julle proses na die URC toe. Kan ek jou vra, Jack, julle het 'n redelike gedigtespan wat jy gekies het vir môre. Is julle gemaklik en jy sou pas verwys na Benetton? Wat se lesse het julle byvoorbeeld geleer as 'n gunsteling in Benetton wat julle in môre en waarskynlik 'n finaal in die Karibebeker kan neem?
Wel, kom ek stel dit so positief. Wat ons daar geleer het, 2 lesse. Een is ons het 2 keer daai Saterdag verloor. So as 'n unie het ons 'n les geleer van ons werwing vir diepte. En ek het nou net daai antwoord gegee vir die media. Die tweede ding wat belangrik is jy weet, ons het 'n finaal verloor daar. Jy weet, ons het 'n kans daar gehad om 'n beker te wen. Ons het nie daai ding deurgetrek nie en dit maak seer. So jy weet, hierdie groepspelers het nou daai gevoel gekry van hoe dit voel om nie 'n beker te wen, veral in die laaste stryd van die wedstryd of veral in die laaste hoek van die, ek weet nie hoe dit in Afrikaans sê nie, maar jy weet, op die laaste stretch het ons daai ding laat val. So daai lesse is ek het seer gemaak en ek hoop daai lesse, jy weet, het seer genoeg gemaak om seker te maak ons het 2 weke nou om nog 'n beker te wen en om 'n kans te gee om vir die bulle ondersteuners laat trots te voel, en ons moet seker maak ons kry dit reg môre.
Jake, you just mentioned that Bismarck should help Jan Hendrik to become another Springbok hooker. Is that your final position on Jan Hendrik, where he will become a Springbok, or are you still in doubt?
Look, I'm not in doubt at all, Carl. I think I've coached lots of guys that I know. I mean, he's going to be a Springbok. It's just a question of when, and I think if he played prop, he'd probably become a Springbok as well. But I think props, if you look at the abundance of props, I mean, and again, you've seen what's happened in the last month. They moved our tight head prop to loose head prop, and now all of a sudden he's a loose head prop. And again, it shows a massive amounts of talent that Trevor's got. And if you look at Simpiwe that we're bringing through now, and we're bringing Gerard Steenkamp through, and you go through the list, Oxenchair that's at the Sharks, and you go Tisa Tolis that's at the Lions, then the pecking order for a guy like Jan Hendrik, who's 20 years old or still relatively young, it's a long time for him to actually shoot past those guys. So to answer your question, Carl, I'm trying to find a way in which that he can find the shortest route to become a Springbok. I did the same with John Smith. John Smith was a tight head prop, and I just saw that age-wise, he would have made it, but he needed to be fast-tracked in a position where I thought that he could play at that level. So Federico Mendes the same. I think Sean Fitzpatrick was a tight head prop as well. Moved to hooker when he was a youngster out of under 20s. So it's been done before. And when I'm answering it like this, I'm sort of feeling like you're holding me over a barrel. Is this like the death wish that he's now going to stay at hooker? I mean, I think that he's such a good rugby player that I think if I put him at flank, he's probably going to make it as well. So, yeah, I rate him, and I don't want to talk him up as though he's the only player I have in my group. I'm just finding a way in which, in our system, we can produce those sort of players, because at the end of the day, a successful Bulls team means a successful national team, and a successful Bulls team means players get exposure into the national setup. So, yeah, I'm fully sure that if we keep him there and we trust him and we support him, and he will make mistakes. You know, he made a couple last week against Free State as well, defensively, standing in the wrong place, you know, leaving the line out too early, leaving it too late. But I mean, that's understandable. You know, we don't now chuck him away and start again. We're going to try and find a way in which we improve him.
Kijk, jammer, ek weet my Engels is baie swak, maar ek kan net 'n vraag om moontlik herhaal in Afrikaans vir vandag. Wat staan tussen jou en Bismarck se handtekening, meneer?
Nee, 'n paar dinge, Percival. I mean, ek sê 'n paar dinge. Ek wil net graag, jy weet, ons het nou met hom onderhandel. Ons het met hom bietjie gepraat oor wat is sy doelwitte, wat is ons doelwitte, en op hierdie stadium, jy weet, hy's nou op die plaas en hy sal terugkom na ons toe. Jy weet, daar 'n paar dinge wat hy moet nou ook uitwerk. Hy het 3 jong kindertjies nou net teruggekom van Frankryk af. Jy weet, soos ek sê, hy moet nou besluit wat is sy volgende, jy weet, stap vorentoe, en hopelik is dit om saam met die bulle te speel.
Jake, just to get back to tomorrow,
Yes.
Cornwall on the wing, obviously he's a very accomplished player there, but in an ideal world, is that where you would have wanted him, and just how badly concussed is Kurt Lee?
Yeah. Well, okay, a couple of questions there, Ken. I mean, in the ideal world, you know, you want to pick the best team you can on the field, and for now, this is the best team we can put on the field from what's available. You know, if you look at Gio, who got injured and, you know, got injured twice, you know, he would be there and thereabouts as an outside back. You know, Kirtley would be there and thereabouts as an outside back. Stedman has spent a lot of time at the sevens, and that combination of him and Cornell that worked really well last year together, you know, obviously wasn't the same this year because of the time factor that they didn't spend together. You know, a guy like Marco Jansen van Vieren, who played centre in the final as well, is an option. But we just felt that the centre combination of Lionel and Harold that have played together, I think 3 Super Rugby finals, you know, many Super Rugby games together, many training sessions together, offers a little bit more stability for us as a group. I'm talking about from a combination point of view. And Cornell can play wing, but there's nothing to stop us from certain plays, standing him in the midfield and obviously using his skills as a wing standing at centre. So, and who knows, maybe he might go into centre at the back end of the game and I'll put Stravina on the wing. And then we almost to the back line that we had last year as well. So, yeah, it just depends. It just depends, Ken. I think that, you know, it's sometimes a gut feeling, and the players understand that. You know, we need to know what's needed for this week, and everyone's bought in that we probably feel that back line is what we need, especially for this game.
Okay, just how badly concussed is Kurt
Oh, yeah.
Lee? And just sorry to following on from what you answered, a guy like Lionel Mapu seems to have really added just some incredible small things in midfield there since he's arrived. How happy have you been with that signing and how he's played?
Yeah.
The last
So Ken, firstly, I mean, the head injury is one of those. It's such a difficult injury to assess because it's not like a torn ligament or a contusion, wherever where you sort of have a time frame on how that changes or how you can get him back on the field. You know, so once there's physiotherapy, etc., etc. So where we are now. You know, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Apparently, it also at sevens it got a whack on the chin, and I think what we decided to do now with lots of rugby coming up is get him to a specialist, let him be checked out, and I think also give him peace of mind, Ken. You know, what you don't want to do in a player is that if he feels as though he hasn't really got an answer about why it's happening, and I mean, if you think about it, he had a scrum cap on, and the ball hit him through the scrum cap. And it was a rugby ball. It wasn't even a person, and he was lights out. So it wasn't a great sign, and I suppose that's why the red flags came up for the medical staff. And having kids his age, the last thing I would like to do is push him through a game where I'm not sure about the extent of that injury. So I'm hoping he's going to go the specialist, and we're hoping that we'll get some sort of specialist advice and feedback as to how serious or how not serious that injury is. And then Lionel, Ken, I mean, I've never coached him. I didn't really know him well. I mean, I saw him I've been living overseas for 9 years, so I wasn't really, when I was coaching the box, he wasn't around. And when I was overseas, he was coming through the line setup. But incredible rugby player, incredible guy, adds a massive amount of value to the team. And I'm sometimes amazed by, he's not only a tough guy, he's also got soft skills, and he's got great feel. He understands the game, really well as well. So, yeah, it's a massive signing for us, and I've got no doubt that combination that we've got now is a solid one. And I've got no doubt, I mean, he could probably even play on the wing if I needed him to play certain games on the wing, because he is so talented and he's got such good feel.
I think your team is regarded as one of the more disciplined teams earlier in the season, and the last few games you had a bit of trouble with lots of penalties. You draw AJ Jacobs again. Some people would say that he was a bit trigger happy last week, especially with those first of the yellow cards.
Yes.
How do you handle a situation like this? Do you talk to him before the game? Do you work on your discipline? What? Because your discipline will be. I mean, every 3 points is vital in a game like this.
Yeah. So, Chris, I'll give you a bit of feedback. We had a Zoom call with the referees and the officials this week with our captains. I think Province had the same, Sharks had the same, and obviously Griquas had the same. So it wasn't preferential treatment at all. It was a great initiative by Mark Lawrence to actually get us to talk about things and ask questions. Feedback I got was that they felt they had made a mistake with that yellow card. And again, I'm not dropping them, that they felt that having sent that through to World Rugby, that there was obstruction, and they probably should have penalised Free State for the obstruction. But then saying that, I mean, obviously we got to adapt according to what happens in front of us, Chris. So, the answer to what I said to the players and to the officials is we're going to go to Europe soon. We're going to get rough calls. We're going to get referees that see things differently. And I would much prefer for us to be strict and get it all right and make sure that we understand what's coming, as opposed to letting everything go in the Currie Cup and then getting into the middle of a United Rugby Championships and then finding out that the way we play and the way we interpret it in our laws are different to the way that it's refereed in the Northern Hemisphere. So, yeah, Chris, it is something that we spoke about. I mean, our penalty count is no different to most other teams. I think that the tackle and the breakdown is an area that's incredibly, I suppose, strictly blown by everybody. I mean, if you look at that game a couple of weeks ago, Free State versus Pumas, I think they gave away 14 penalties in the first half. So I think it is an area. And that, again, of course, is part of having guys like Marcel and Arnu and, Johan Goosen and Harold Foster and that are a little bit older and understand the experience, and hopefully they will be, how can I put it? They'll be calm enough to understand that they can't make those kind of mistakes, and they'll help the juniors on the field understand, how to handle that pressure.
Okay, final question, please.
Anything else, guys? Everyone happy?
Well, good.
Cool. Thanks. Good luck.
Thanks, eh?
Thanks, Jack. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, eh? Cheers, guys. Cheers, eh?